Okay, good evening, everybody. Good evening. Thank you all for joining us. We're going to go ahead and get the meeting started. So we're going to call the meeting to order at 7:05. And our first order of business is to review the report of the nominating committee, and Linda Saltis will go ahead and walk us through that. And that is right in your program. You can follow along with us.
Page 3. Hello, everyone. Everybody here? No. A little closer? Okay. I am on the nominating committee with Sue Drummey, and I'm glad to report offer this nominating report for this year. We have the following nominations for corporators. We have Bill Cloutier, who will be joining us as corporators. He's already a very active volunteer here at the Athenaeum, so we're just thrilled to be able to have him as a corporator. Yay! Thank you. We have several of our board members whose terms are up, and they have all agreed to sit for another 3-year term, and that would be Donna Burkott. Is she here today? Harry Rock, walking in as we speak, and Deborah Strykars. And then our officers for this coming year will be Susan Drummey has agreed to serve as president again. Tracy Kester, is she here tonight? No, I think she joined. She's vice president. Mark Morin, our wonderfully handsome, talented. You wondered what I was going to say, right? You wondered, right?
Put that in the
report. Our assistant treasurer, Debbie Strykars, and our secretary, Candy Pennington. You're welcome.
All right. Are there any nominations from the floor in addition to the nominations from the committee report? Okay, noting none, I will declare the nominations closed and ask for a motion that the secretary cast one ballot for the corporators, directors, and officers presented by the nominating committee. All in favor of accepting the nominations? Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, motion carried. We now have a new set of board members as well as officers who will sit for another year, and our newest corporator, Bill Cloutier. Thank you, everybody, for your commitment and agreeing to join us for another term. Will all of the corporators, directors, and officers presented by the nominating committee please stand and raise their right hand so you can be sworn in. Is that everybody, Gary? And that would be me as well. Do you solemnly swear that you will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties incumbent on you as an appointed official of the Westfield Athenaeum, so help you God? If so, say I do.
I do.
Thank you very much. And congratulations. All right, we'll move on now to the Secretary's report. May I have a motion to accept the minutes of last year's Corporators Meeting as presented in the annual report?
So moved.
All in favor? Or let's have a second of that motion. All in favor? Aye. Right, motion carried. Thank you. And now I will call up Mark Morin, treasurer.
For Larry.
Oh, Larry, okay, it says Mark in here, so I wasn't sure who was going to do it, but Larry Zabilski will review our financial report and the auditor's opinion.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Good? Oh, yeah, that's good. Okay, I'm going to just read the independent auditor's report, as I always do. To the Board of Directors, the Athenaeum, Westfield, Mass. I have audited the accompanying financial statements of the Westfield Athenaeum which comprise the statement of financial position as of June 30th, 2024, and the related statements of activities, functional expenses, and cash flows for the year that ended, and the related notes to the financial statements. Management is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of these financial statements in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. This includes the design, implementation, and maintenance of internal control relative to the preparation and fair presentation of financial statements that are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error. My responsibility is to express an opinion on these financial statements based on my audit. I conducted my audit in accordance with auditing standards generally accepted in the United States of America. Those standards require that I plan and perform the audit to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements are free of material misstatement. An audit involves performing procedures to obtain audit evidence about the amounts and disclosures in the financial statements. The procedures selected depend on the auditor's judgment, including the assessment of the risks of material misstatement of the financial statements, whether due to fraud or error. In making those risk assessments, the auditor considers internal control relevant to the entity's preparation and fair presentation of the financial statements in order to design audit procedures that are appropriate in the circumstances, but not for the purpose of expressing an opinion on the effectiveness of the entity's internal control. Accordingly, I express no such opinion. An audit also includes evaluating the appropriateness of accounting principles used and the reasonableness of significant accounting estimates made by management, as well as evaluating the overall presentation of the financial statements. I believe that the audit evidence I have obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for my opinion. In my opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly, in all material respects, the financial position of the Westfield Athenaeum as of June 30, 2024. Those are the notes.
Larry Baxter.
Huh?
Front to back.
Oh, the results of its operations and its cash flows for the year in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. Signed October 18, 2024, Morin. As usual, everything really did go smooth, and I congratulate the staff here that the accounting records are done properly, because every nonprofit organization is different than the next one, and you've got to be familiar with so many different areas. But it did go well. I congratulate Mark, who does a lot. But and then the last thing I want to close with, and I think a lot of you probably already know this, I am retiring. I didn't do any personal tax returns this past tax season, telling people that I was retiring, but I wanted to do the Athenaeum. Like Mark said, it's difficult to get somebody to do an audit of something like this, but I've done it so many years that I know what I need to do. But the time has come for me to retire. Many of you know I had hip surgery and a hip problem. The surgery went incredibly well, and so it's time for me to move on in life and to enjoy a couple of years of retirement. So I thank everybody here all the time, because I've been the auditor for a long time, and I appreciate the fact that you realized how important I take this position. So thank you very much.
That's all right. Can you polka now?
Huh?
Can you polka?
I do take the accordion. I took lessons from the one and only, and I think most of you people know who this is, Larry Chesky. And I was one of his favorite pupils, and when I got married, I actually had him and his band play at my wedding. Unbelievable. He was a great guy.
Well, thank you again for all all those years of service there. You will be a hard act to follow, and
Thank you.
it's going to be very tough to fill your
Thank you.
shoes. Okay, is there any old business that anybody would like to bring forward? How about new business? Okay, so what we're going to do next is we'll ratify last year's minutes. May I have a motion to fully ratify all actions taken by the officers of the corporation of the board of directors since the last annual meeting of the corporators as set forth in the records of the corporation?
So,
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carried, thank you, and I will now hand things over.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming. Can you hear this?
Yeah, just a little.
The first financial, or the first statement is the statement of financial position, and that's really a balance sheet for people who are in the for-profit area. And it starts with our cash, and we have two columns. The first column is without donor restrictions, and the second column is with donor restrictions. The without donor restrictions is actually our operating accounts. It's our day-to-day activity. The donor restrictions are our investments and our cash accounts that are restricted for specific uses. And in some cases, they're restricted to the point where the principal cannot be touched. We're only able to use the interest that were derived from that. Looking at the without donor restrictions, we have $152,000 in cash. We have our land and buildings net of depreciation of $2.8 million, so we have total assets for without restrictions of $3 million. Total, we have $8.5 million, so we're doing very, very well. And that includes our investments, which are just under $3.9 million. And people who have investments, you know, this year was a very, very good year. And again, this is June 30th, and since then, it's probably gone up. The investments, we're only able to take a rolling 3-year average of 5% of whatever the value is at the end of June. So each year, if it goes up, the next year, we're able to take out a little bit more as far as towards our operations. And I'll show that in the next slide. Our liabilities are very, very small. We're in good shape. Our accounts payable, $5,000. Accrued payroll is $35,000, and that's just people working, what we owed people who worked through June 30th but got paid in the next month in July. So that was the $35,000. So our net liabilities or our net assets are a little under $3 million for our operating side, and with our donor restrictions, it's $5,452,000. So I will go to the next slide, which is our operations. Again, the first column is our revenue that we generated from our operating account. The city of Westfield gives us $1.1 million, and they've been very, very good to us. We never really have to fight too hard. This administration's been very good as far as supporting us and giving us what we need. We get $123,000 from Massachusetts, the state, and that is from, we have to have a formula. Massachusetts, we give these grants, which have gone up quite a bit. They used to be like $60,000, and I'm saying maybe like 3-4 years, maybe 5 years ago. So they've really done a nice job in supporting throughout the state libraries. The state aid is based on the city has to provide 2.5% increase over the prior 3 years. So they kind of put the cities and towns' feet to the fire that if you don't support the library, you're not going to get a grant. We also have to have 13% of our budget in books, which, as Guy can talk about a little bit later, that is not books anymore. It's numerous other things, DVDs, etc. Revenues and fines is $29,000. That's from even some mental income itself. Income from investments is $9,300. That's pretty much interest income from our our savings accounts, et cetera. We had gifts of 28,000, and we had transferred from donor restrictions into the, without donor restrictions of 23,000. So we had total revenue on the operating side of 1.3 million. On the donor restricted side, that's again, the money that we are not able to, or it's set up restricted for a specific use. We had revenue or we had grants that came from Shirtlift, Westfield Athenaeum, Friends. The Friends have been very supportive also. Who else do we have here? So I don't forget anybody. Yeah, Sarah Gillette, Shirtlift, Westfield Academy, the Friends. Burke Foundation, there's money set up aside that we get roughly $15,000 for. As far as our income from investments, that's dividends, the gifts and capital grants. Some money we received was restricted specifically for, hopefully our phase 3, which I'm sure Guy will talk about going forward. Again, the increase in our beneficial interest, that's basically the increase in our investments, which is $487,000. So it was a very, very good year in that regard. So that's our income. Oops, not too far. Let me go back. Yes. So now I'm going to take a look at our expenses. Again, the first column is our operating account, where we had $1.4 million worth of expenses. The donor restricted account is our investments account, basically, along with the various grants that we received, the expenditures we had, which was $206,000. Going down, obviously, our biggest expenses usually and always are our books purchases, which was $145,000, and also our salary and our payroll taxes of $964,000. Our staff does an unbelievable job along with Guy. I think we really, really are in the news constantly about what's going on here. It's about different programs and everyone else coming to do talks, what's going on with our art. It's just really been really, really cool. And they've done a great job. The other item I want to make sure everyone notices is the repairs and maintenance in the building and equipment. Between the two accounts, we spent over $167,000 on repairs. Painting, fixing leaks, fixing ceilings. It's an old building. And the building committee does a great job. Linda, Jane, Donna, and I think they meet what? Twice a day?
Yeah.
For like 3 or 4 hours a meeting too. I sat in on 2 of them, it's like mind-numbing. But anyway, they do an unbelievable job. And it's an old building, and they are on top of everything all the time. And we have been lucky enough with our investments and our grants, and also our donations that people make, that we were in a position this year to do a lot of work, and even still have enough cash to do our daily day-to-day expenditures. I'll go to the next one, which is kind of a wonky type of statement. It's an accounting statement. So, but what it does show to you, it basically gives you an idea, taking all the items out that really don't affect cash. For instance, the growth in our investments does not affect cash. Depreciation does not affect cash. So what it does is it tries to drill down to see what kind of year you actually had, and that is the net cash provided by the operating activities. So we actually lost $100,000 this year, but a lot of it was by our choosing. We were in a position to really be aggressive with our expenditures and repairing this building, which is constantly needs repairs. So other than that, if anyone has any questions at all, anytime during the year, I used to say Larry and I, you can call either one of us, but you can't call Larry, even though I can give you his phone number. But anyway, so again, thanks so much for coming and caring, and I appreciate you being here.
Okay, so it's good to see such a good turnout here. It just is an indication of the support we have in the community, which really pleases me very much. So let me begin by saying that this has been an amazingly active year with so many events, programs, exhibits, concerts, and new improvements to our facility. Mark was just in one you can see here, the newly painted walls right here.
Lights on order,
And lights, yes, you can see the fixtures. We're soon going to have fixtures here, so you can see in this very room progress at work. And many of the stats that I'm going to talk about today are quite impressive. In fact, several of the numbers you're going to hear were surprising even to me, and I'm seeing these activities every day. But I'm going to start with one number and then talk about what that number means. Over the last year, 184,401 total items were borrowed from the Athenaeum. That's an increase of approximately 11,000 items over the 173,000 items checked out last year. Let me just say right here that I find these numbers absolutely astounding because I thought the 173,000 number that we had last year was very, very good. But to see that we increased that number by 1,000 items a month is a tribute to the hard work of our dedicated library staff members who have put in a lot of hard work this year. If you think about it, that is an incredibly large number. Since we have about 15,000 card holders, that means that we average approximately 12 items checked out for every single card holder we have online. Before we get carried away by these large numbers and a lot more statistics that I will share with you, let's take a minute to think about what this means on a more personal level. Take a look at this individual sitting in the library absorbed by the contents of this book. What does this photo mean to us? What is this person really doing as they're engaged with the words of the page of this book? Sometimes I think that we are way too awed by large numbers and forget to think about the fact that every one of those 184,000 items taken out by a patron represents a meaningful intellectual experience, maybe even a life-changing experience. I want to share a couple of quotes before reading with you in order to make a point about what we are dedicated to accomplishing here at the Athenaeum. Rene Descartes said that the reading of all good books is like a conversation with the finest minds of past centuries. Mallory Blackman said that reading is an exercise in empathy, an exercise in walking in someone else's shoes for a while. Ben Oakley said that reading is an act of civilization. It's one of the greatest acts of civilization because it takes the free raw material of the mind and builds castles of possibilities. I love that, castles of possibilities. Joyce Carol Oates said that reading is the sole means by which we slip involuntarily, often helplessly, into another's skin, another's voice, another's soul. And finally, Paul Auster, who just recently died, by the way, said that reading was an escape in my comfort, my consolation, my stimulant of choice. Reading for the pure pleasure of it, for the beautiful stillness that surrounds you when you hear an author's words reverberating in your head. I have to tell you a story of someone who stopped me in the parking lot as I left work several months ago. She was a young woman, probably no more than 18 or 19. She began by saying that she knew I was a librarian and wanted me to know of her experience here at the Athenaeum. She explained that she was shy and had trouble making friends. She was also bullied in high school. And after graduation, she didn't really feel ready to go to college. She also didn't have the money since her parents were divorced and unable to help her with the costs. After a couple of months, she got a job at a Dunkin' Donuts shop in Springfield. But one of the other workers there began making inappropriate comments and eventually started stalking her. After a couple of months, she decided the only thing to do was to quit. After that traumatic experience and being unemployed, she fell into a deep depression and considered committing suicide, which is becoming more and more of a problem with teenagers today, I'll add. But one day, she decided to come to the Athenaeum. She asked one of our librarians to suggest a book. The librarian actually suggested several books after asking her what her interests were. She wound up choosing The Heaven and Earth Grocery Store by James McBride. Has anybody read that book? Yeah, okay, yeah. She sat down at one of the tables in the Great Hall and began to read. Soon she was totally engrossed in the story. In this novel, one of the characters is a young boy who is unable to hear due to an accident. Many people in the town think that he is mentally challenged due to his difficulty communicating. After his mother dies, state officials get involved and the boy is sent to an insane asylum, of all places. This was back in the days when insane asylums were the places where anyone who didn't fit in or didn't have anyone to take care of them was simply dumped. But after a time, a man from the ghetto where he had lived prior to being sent to the asylum sneaks into the facility and rescues the boy. She told me that hearing that story, and especially the struggle that boy went through, gave her the courage to face her own challenges. She ended her story by telling me that reading that book and the librarian who helped her find it saved her life. One book, one checkout, and look what it meant. For me, the point of this story is that of the 184,000 items that we checked out last year, we never know how many made a meaningful impact in the lives of the people who checked them out. It says to me that this statistic really means something. Every time we walk by the circulation desk and see someone checking out a book, it just might mean that they are about to have a life-altering experience. So as you look at the statistics I'm about to present, keep in mind that these numbers reflect real community needs. As Courtney Hodell, the director of literacy programs at the Whiting Foundation, said, there's something sort of mysterious and beautiful and private about a reader's engagement with the written word, and that is part of its power. But it's also why it makes it a more difficult story to tell. Okay, so let me go to the first. So with all that said, it's time to get back to the statistics. Many I'm sure that you'll find very impressive. As you can see from this slide, we now have 25,721 books, 3,087 audio items, and 5,680 videos in our adult services section. But since we are now living in a digital age and so many people now use ebooks and other forms of electronic media, we provided more than 108,000 ebooks and more than 82,000 downloadable audiobooks to our patrons through the CWMARS system, our regional library system. Our youth services department has 10,705 children's books, 4,292 young adult books, more than 600 audio items, and more than 1,500 videos for children's and teens. All totaled, the Athenaeum maintains a collection of 41,684 print items, 7,241 videos, and 3,710 audio items. When you add the 140,083 ebooks and 100,773 downloadable audio items, you can see that we have a wealth of resources available for any patron who walks in the door, or for that matter, accesses our resources from home. And here it seems appropriate to address one of the enduring stereotypes about librarians. I don't know how many times I've heard someone say that it must be nice to work in a library and read all day. I love that one. Or I've often had someone say they can work, they'd love to work in the library since it's nice to be able to read books there. I hate to have to destroy their illusions, but librarians never have the time to read because they are too busy helping other people read. Or they're working on providing all the thousands of items available for our patrons to read. And there simply isn't a way that we can provide thousands of items for patrons and check out those 184,000 items without the hard work and dedication of our library staff. Just think about the logistics in checking out all those books. The library was open 2,944 hours this last year, which means that we averaged checking out 62.5 items per hour, or a little more than one item every single minute we were open. I figured that I just was amazed by that. But checking out books is just one part of what we do. Before that book can be checked out by a patron, it first must be purchased. That means reviewing dozens of sources and making difficult decisions about what books our community needs in literally hundreds of subject categories. And since more than 275,000 books are published each year in this country, we have to make difficult choices about which books are most helpful to our patrons. Then once the book arrives, it must be processed and cataloged and entered into our computer database. After it's been cataloged and a call number attached, it must be put on the shelf in a place where the librarians and our patrons can find it. Finally, after one of our patrons check out one of our books and then bring it back to us, we must reshove it in its designated place. That long and convoluted process took place 184,000 times last year. It makes me tired just thinking about what it takes to get a book on the shelf and making it available for someone to take it home. But that's not all that our librarians do. It's important to remember that providing books is just one of the things our staff members do each day. Each month, our library professionals answer more than 500 questions. These questions range over a wide number of topics. A typical question might be a request for help making a resume for a job search. Many people come in asking questions related to genealogy searches. We also get a lot of questions about local history, and of course, many people come in and ask for assistance finding a book or ask what they might read next. In our youth services department, the librarians are often asked questions by parents needing assistance in helping their children learn to read. Keep in mind that we almost never know what questions we are going to be asked on a given day. And the research that librarians must perform in order to answer a question from a patron might take only a couple of minutes, or it might require a couple of hours. Our librarians must be prepared for any question they're asked. But the work our librarians perform each day goes. I should change to this. But the work our librarians perform each day goes even beyond putting books on the shelves and helping patrons with questions. They also work diligently developing programs for the community. We offer between 20 and 30 programs a month. That means that almost every day the library is open, we are offering a program of some kind. And the range of subjects covered by these programs is impressive. We offer programs, lectures, concerts, and other kinds of programming in a wide range of interests, including children's story time, adult book reading groups, local history lectures, art lectures connected to our exhibits, classical music concerts, films, cooking classes, technology assistance, and genealogy, to name just a few. To break this down, we offered 139 programs for adults, 30 programs for teens, and 127 programs for children. That's a grand total of 296 programs, and these programs were attended by 4,454 people. That's well over 10% of the population of Westfield. Of course, I can talk about all the programs that we hosted this year, but I know all of you want to get out of here before midnight, but let me just mention a few. In the spring, let me just move to here we go. In the spring, we collaborated with the musicians of the Springfield Symphony Orchestra on a series of 3 chamber music concerts. We also included a pre-concert lecture before each of these concerts. If you haven't attended one of these concerts, you have really missed a treat. These musicians who participated in these concerts put together a great variety of pieces that were enjoyed by all in attendance. This was the 3rd year that we have hosted this series, and we look forward to doing it again starting in February. In August, we hosted a sold-out trip to Tanglewood. This was really a lot of fun. It was a beautiful summer day, and we had the opportunity to hear Yo-Yo Ma perform. And he was amazing, let me assure you. We also enhanced the experience for the people of the trip by including an introductory lecture. Earlier this month, we hosted a trip to the Clark Art Institute. Let me see it. Yes, there we go. On this trip, we first stopped by the Red Lion Inn for a tasty lunch. Then we headed up to the Berkshires to the Clark. There we saw an interesting exhibit on the art of Edgar Degas. This exhibit was in recognition of the 150th anniversary of the very first Impressionist exhibit in Paris, which was held in 1874. We also had the opportunity to view the amazing permanent art collection at the Clark. One of the things that makes the Athenaeum truly special is that we are much more than just a public library. We are also a history museum and an art museum. We are a multifaceted cultural center for the citizens of Westfield. Let's look at the History Museum first. A lot of changes have taken place in our History Museum over the last couple of years. For one thing, we have doubled the space devoted to history exhibits. Before the pandemic, there was only one space, the Smith Room, and the displays had not been updated for some time. After the pandemic, we focused our attention on developing new exhibits in the Reed Room. Once those exhibits were in place, we turned our attention back to the Smith Room, updating some of our existing exhibits, and creating 2 new exhibits, one dedicated to Victorian life, and another focused on the history of child raising and education. The Reed Room now features a large case with a permanent exhibit giving an overview of Westfield history, from the original settlement in 1669 to the present day. The Reed also features a changing exhibit case, which you're seeing here in the picture, for displays focused on a variety of themes. The exhibit currently in our changing exhibit case was just installed in September and is a large show on Victorian fashion. In this exhibition, you can see Victorian dresses, accessories, shoes, hats, fans, calling cards, and many other items. Every item in both of these exhibits is from the Athenaeum's extensive collection of historical artifacts. And many people don't realize, they think that somehow they came from somebody, some other place. These are all, everything in the Reed Room is, and for that matter, in the Smith Room, is from our own collections here. And also, let me say, the museum committee worked really, really hard on putting this exhibit together in the Victorian fashions. They did a great job. Across the hall for the Reed Room is the Rand Gallery, where we host a variety of art exhibits each year. Earlier this year, we completely renovated the gallery. We replaced the walls, installed new carpet, added new lighting, and gave the room a new coat of paint. And the building committee really did a lot of hard work putting this together. To launch our newly renovated gallery, we installed an exhibit of the paintings of Ron Michaud, a former professor of art at Westfield State University and the University of Massachusetts. The exhibit consists of a series of landscapes of the road that leads to the commons of the town of Dana, which was flooded when the common was created in the 1930s. Next year, we have a great lineup of artists that will be on exhibit. If all goes according to plan, we hope to feature 5 shows through the course of the year. It truly has been an extraordinary year with so much activity and so many accomplishments. But we have a lot of work to do this next year. As lovely as our building is, we must also recognize that it is an old building. We need to do a lot of restoration work, especially in the Great Hall. And we have a lot of work to do in order to raise the funds necessary to cover the costs of those restorations. As good as our reference service is, technological challenges arise every day, and our staff members are working hard to identify those challenges and find ways to assist our patrons in new ways. We all know how quickly technology changes, and with the advent of AI, those challenges may happen at an even faster rate. We must be ready to face those changes. Many in our community are without a home or struggling with substance abuse, and quite a number of those individuals turn to us for help or simply a place to stay during the day. The public library is on the front line in confronting the social problems that exist in the United States now. We must face that reality and find ways to assist those in need. We also recognize that there are those who are homebound and can't come to us, so we must continue to find ways of reaching them. We know that there are many children who are struggling in school. We must continue to find resources to assist these kids and their parents. And finally, we know that teens are struggling with depression and anxiety in record numbers, like the story I just told you. And they often come to the library looking for help or simply a place of refuge. We must remain vigilant in helping them find their way to adulthood. The Athenaeum is truly a wonderful place, and I've grown to love the buzz of activity that begins promptly at 9 a.m. every morning. I occasionally look down from the upstairs loft into the great hall and the reference department and simply take in the flurry of activity. Librarians assisting the first visitors of the day, visitors browsing the shelves looking for a good book to read, pages gathering books for reshelving, patrons finding a table to begin their studies, and people sitting down at a computer to use the internet. When I take all this in, I realize that the Athenaeum means so many different things to so many people. It's a place of refuge, and it's a place to learn. It's one of the few places left in American society where everyone is welcome and almost everything we have to offer is free. But if the Athenaeum is to be able to continue assisting the community has to continue to support the Athenaeum. Your support in the past has been generous and sustained, but we cannot rest on our laurels. Every one of us needs to renew our commitment to advocate and support this institution. The citizens of Westfield have recognized the need for a library since the 18th century. And an act of incorporation established the Westfield Athenaeum was approved on March 11, 1864, in order to, in their words, and I quote, promote public instruction. I like that choice of word, promote public instruction. For the last 160 years, Westfield has supported that mission, but the need to continue that mission has never been greater. I ask all of you to renew your pledge of support and help us make sure that we can continue to promote public instruction for the next 160 years. Thank you very much.
Many thanks to Guy. So many of these things just wouldn't be possible without the energy, the enthusiasm, and you can see the passion that Guy has for public libraries and the breadth of our organization, especially as an Athenaeum. So we are privileged to have him, and I want to extend a special thanks to Guy. So a couple of announcements, as Guy mentioned, it doesn't work without all of you here to support us and to volunteer. I thank all of you who have, I see many people signed up to help us with the museum. There's training for that. We're getting a lot more foot traffic in. There's so much richness. If you haven't gone to the read room, you've got to stop in. The artifact collection is just nothing short of amazing, and it's incredibly well documented. It's just beautiful. The same with our art exhibits in the gallery, just incredibly impressive. So we could use your help with that. Fundraising, there's lots of different opportunities. So coming right up, we have our annual wine tasting, which is a lot of fun, as many of you know. It's going to be on December 6th. Tickets will be on sale November 4th, this coming Monday. So we're really excited about that. So please tell your friends, bring your family. It's a great time. And there's always things going on in downtown, right? So you can come here, go to dinner, and have a nice evening, starting at the Athenaeum. We could use volunteers for the wine tasting, so if that's something you're interested in, typically pouring wine, helping us set up, helping us break down, those kinds of, helping hands are very welcome. And as I mentioned, we certainly would love to have volunteers for the Smith Museum. We've now started to open it on Saturdays. And so we're looking for volunteers to staff the museum from 10 to 12 and 12 to 2. And as I mentioned, there is training, and Guy also pointed out that we've got a very strong, very active museum committee. They're very happy to train and help with any concerns or questions you might have if you'd like to become a volunteer. So please feel free to join us for that. And with that said, I would like to hear a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, meeting is adjourned. Thank you so very much, and we hope to see you around.